All right, how we doing, guys? Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the morning huddle. We have a couple people joining us now. We have people coming in. So welcome to everyone joining on time. Appreciate it, appreciate it. We're also recording on probably gonna launch it on Facebook and YouTube as well. But thanks, guys, for joining. Give it a couple more seconds here. All right, welcome, welcome. So today we are talking about talking too much. So yesterday, or sorry, Wednesday, we covered a little bit about status framing, about being perceived as sharp, enthusiastic, and an expert, and we talked about giving information. So naturally, after we discuss those topics, how do you know that you're talking too much? Okay, people perceive you in a part in how you've met when it comes to sales, you're going to be perceived partly the beginning of that perception is how you've met, right? If you meet somebody and they hit you with their car, you're pretty upset, right? So that's the frame of reference you're kind of meeting them at. That's going to kind of be the first thing in their mind. So I like to think if I'm going out to a person and I'm meeting them in a casual location, maybe we are at for example, we just did a veterans event where we had a lot of veterans in the community. We had retirees, the older veterans came in, younger veterans. We had people that are in the military. So I have my table. They're coming to talk to me. It's a pleasant interaction. They're coming to me. We're chatting about different things. Okay. But what if I get on the phone and I interrupt someone's work time or they're in the office or they're at lunch with their family and I interrupt them, we're starting off on a difficult footing, which is why most sales calls are difficult to complete because you don't know when you're getting them. You could be interrupting them, and that's why that first like 15, 20 seconds has to be on point. So, how do you know in that beginning part of the conversation how the general direction is going? It's perception, right? So, enthusiastic, expert, and sharp off the bat. But here's the main differentiation. If I sound like every other salesperson ever trying to sell them a product, I've lost. Because what's it going to be? Hang up, click, or no, I'm not interested, or I'm good, thank you. You're going to get some smoke screens, some sales resistance, some sales barriers. So I've got to bring those barriers down. I've got to find ways to bring those barriers down. Okay. Now, what do average salespeople say? Well, did you know that blah blah blah, or hey, actually, I'm just giving you a call to follow up on our blah blah blah, right? Hey, if you've got some time, I'd really love to chat about our sales solution for XYZ, right? So when it comes to this, everyone sounds kind of similar. So you've got to find your own unique way to enter that conversation organically, that makes sense. So when I'm handing out door hangers in my neighborhood, I go, "Hey, I'm Ronnie. I actually live down the street. I moved here 2 years ago. I bought in 19. When did you buy?" "Oh, I bought in 20. Oh, you probably have a great interest rate, don't you?" "Yeah, yeah." And we're chatting. It isn't about the sale at that point, making the connection, making that personal one-on-one, non-transaction connection. And now we're talking, right? Now, during a sales call, sales meeting, I want to play with that small talk. I don't want to do too much of it because I know, they know that the small talk is just a way in. And it's annoying and it's fake. I don't actually care about how the weather is, this kind of thing. So small talk in a way can detract from why we're there, which is to sell property to why I'm walking around the neighborhood to begin with, right? I want to be quick to the point. Experts don't linger, right? So the thing is that a lot of things don't work. Customers don't trust them. And instead, I want to make it about them. I want to make our interaction, our conversations about the actual client, about their wants, needs, hopes, dreams, that kind of thing, than opposed to basic generic small talk that's not going to get us anywhere. Let's talk about some ways to frame that conversation. Um, One big thing I will tell you is do not dominate the conversation. It's more about asking, about listening, and about the interaction back and forth than it is about anything else. I don't want to dominate the conversation. I want to always be listening, thinking, responding, asking questions, that kind of thing, than just talking for 10, 15 minutes. And that's hard to do because we love to talk as realtors. We love to pretty much do all those kinds of things. And when it comes to this, it's difficult to change. So what I want to do is I want to only um excuse me here. There we go. I want to only listen, think, that kind of thing about what I'm saying and how I'm working. Okay, so dominating the conversation, don't want to do that. I want to listen. Now, what do most experts say? Most experts are going to say a couple of different sentences, a couple of different things that are going to set them apart as an expert. One of the things that experts say is, hey, uh, I totally understand. But John, what concerns me is boom. John, I totally understand what you're saying. But what concerns me is that boom. So let me get any kind of objection. The one that we're going to cover today actually is, we'll frame it to that. The one I'm going to cover today is I'm going to try to do this myself. When it comes to buying or selling, I can do it myself. That's the objection today. So John, I understand that you want to sell your home yourself, but what concerns me is that you may not have all the data necessary to do that. John, I totally understand that you want to sell your home yourself, but what concerns me is that you have a full-time job. So how much time are you going to have to show the property, to negotiate the contract, to really make sure that you're not taken advantage of by a potential buyer? So I totally understand. But what concerns me is that's one way that experts get around some of these things. Another thing experts say is, John, I totally hear you. I understand, I totally hear what you're saying. But remind me again, what made you think about wanting to sell your home in the first place? Bringing it back to them, bringing it back to an emotional place, bringing it back to a place where, for example, it connects with them on a different level than just money, than just a transaction. People do things to avoid pain. People do things to avoid anxiety. People do things to avoid wasting time, wasting money. So if I said to them, John, I totally hear you, but remind me again, what made you want to buy a home in the first place? Because if you're renting right now, and we already know that purchasing is going to be the same as renting, what is stopping us from achieving that goal that you had just 2 weeks ago? John, what's changed in the past 2 weeks that is significant enough to stop the whole process now? And don't be afraid to, me at least, I'm not afraid to go very direct. John, has something changed in the past 2 weeks? Is at first we were very, very motivated to look at property. What's happened now? Well, Ronnie, and then they're going to expose the real reason. Well, it's taking too long, and I feel like, well, John, what did you expect? Buying a home is a hard process. It takes time. That's why you've got me to help you to blah, blah, blah. John, I know it's taking more time than you thought it would, but this process is a very, very important decision. But I'm here to guide you. Remember that House A, the one that we just saw, has a significant tax savings because your principal and interest, your interest payments are a tax deduction, right? I'm going to bring up a fact. One more thing I can do as an expert. Again, experts advise. Experts advise their clients on some of those top things. You know who's great at this? Javier Vargas. Javier Vargas has a ton of video content advising, framing himself as the expert, okay, to his customers. Tons of video content explaining those details. So he's coming in from an advisor point of view, which really helps him to establish his like we talked about last week, his status. So here's one. John, I totally get it. But does it scare you that in 3 months your rental lease is going to be up and you don't know what the increase is going to be? John, I totally get it, but what's going to happen if blah, blah, blah? John, I totally understand, but what if you don't get the house that you want at the right price now? You're going to wait until next year? I mean, the prices are down now, right? So experts are able to use different terminology and lingo to kind of get to that level of the result they want. And later on, we'll talk about future pacing. We'll talk about end state phrases that you can insert as well. But listen, guys, when you're talking too much, just stop yourself and ask questions. Ask questions. One thing we talk about again, great book, The Way of the Wolf. Fantastic. One thing in there that he talks about is mirroring, tonality, using a concern tone. But what I want you to do is not find a solution during this process. When someone gives you these rebuttals, these concerns, these situations, don't solve their problem. What I want you to do is expose the problem, find the problem, expose the problem, uncover it, not cause, but remind them of their pain. That's going to put them in a state of, oh my God, I'm on fire. I need water. Ronnie, bring me the water, right? That's what I want to do. I don't want to solve their problem until they know they have a problem and until they know how deep that problem can be. All right. What else do experts do? Experts build rapport. One tactic I use to build rapport is just those phrases I just mentioned, the understanding phrases, the concern phrases, the I hear you phrases, the I totally get it phrases. Because this phrasing is subconsciously in their mind, putting in cues and details and kind of subliminally adding that I'm concerned about their well-being. Not just saying I'm concerned, I'm legitimately asking because I am concerned about what they're going to do. What are their plans? What are you going to do when your rent goes up? What are you going to do if you can't buy a house? You're having that baby, John. So, I mean, you need the extra room, okay? I'm genuinely concerned. So, in communication with those phrasings I just mentioned, I am further solidifying that trust and that connection with the customer. If it's not genuine, they'll know and they'll reject and they'll back away. But when I just start asking questions and uncovering problems and uncovering situations, not even selling a product, just uncovering what their needs and wants are, when I begin to do that, they begin to trust me and those barriers go down and we can have an honest conversation. Well, Ronnie, I mean, the reason why I really want to stop is because I just don't think I can afford the payments. John, listen, I totally get it. You're concerned that when you're renting, you can just find somewhere else to live. But when you have a house, you got to make those payments. Well, John, have you ever not been made a payment? Have you ever been in a position where you didn't make a payment, where you were homeless on the streets? Is your job pretty secure, pretty stable? Okay. You're going to make payments anyways, right? Because you're renting right now. If you find you a convertible property, your interest, principal and interest, insurance, taxes, it should be pretty foreseeable, pretty regular payments. Have you ever not made a payment? Right? And you're kind of easing those concerns. Well, John, what are you going to do if you're renting and you make a payment? You're getting kicked out in 30 days. You're out, you're evicted. With a mortgage, you have some options. You have forbearance, you have, forgiveness, you have government program, those things we can do, right? When it comes to rentals, you're out. Landlord doesn't care. And that's going to help build rapport. Most people have no idea what rapport is. I had an agent that would just agree with everything and then make things up. Yeah, yeah, yeah. If the person said they liked, I don't know, something dumb, they liked SeaWorld. Oh, SeaWorld. You like SeaWorld? Psst, I used to work at SeaWorld. Yeah, I love SeaWorld. I go all the time. I used to work by the dolphin enclosure. And it was a total lie. Until one day I'm listening to a sales call and the person goes, for in this example, right? I used to work at SeaWorld. Oh yeah, me too. What part? What year? Now the person's like, what? Okay. When it comes to this, guys, you don't want to get caught in a lie because you're obviously a liar at that point. You're a used car salesman. Sorry, Bob, for the comment on car salesman, but you're a used car salesman. When you are just lying to people to build rapport, it doesn't work. Doesn't work. So agreeing with people is not the way to go. Making things up is not building rapport. Oh, you like California? I'm from California. And furthermore, in that conversation where you're pretty close to making a sale, to building a connection, building trust, if the person goes, "Yeah, I live in California," just they just say that in passing, like in a conversation, California, and you stop the sales path to go off about California, you've derailed yourself. You're off the path. You're off the path. You're off the straight line in Jordan's straight line sales system. I'm on the way to making the sale. If I derail that sale with something else, I've gotten off the path. So what I want you to do, instead of agreeing with people, making things up, I want you to do things that signal things. I want you to say things that signal things. I want you to do things that signal things. What do you mean signal? I want you to take actions that give a signal that you care, feel their pain, and understand. I want you to take actions that signal that you care, feel their pain, understand. That's what I want you to do. When you're doing that, you're building rapport. When you're doing that, you're building rapport. So you're building rapport. You're building trust and connections. It's not just agreeing with people. Oh, you're Puerto Rico. I love Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico's I go there on vacation all the time. That stuff is cool, great. But I don't pick my professional based on if they like my vacation destination, right? I pick them because they care, they understand, and they feel what I feel, right? So these are things I'm going to signal to that. Experts don't waste time and experts don't linger. If a sales call goes past 14, 15, 16 minutes and you haven't even gotten to the actual reason for the call, you're losing. If your listing appointment takes 4 hours, you're losing. Everyone's different, but don't linger, don't waste time. Experts don't do that. I'm busy. I got things to do. I've got a calendar. I got a full calendar. I am a working guy, okay? I don't have time to linger and waste time. In that conversation, if you feel yourself lingering, it's very polite to begin the exit strategy. I have an exit strategy for every phone call, every situation I'm in, right? You got to have an exit that puts you in a position. We'll talk about exit strategies later on. But today's objection I want to cover, guys, is going to be objection. I'm going to do this myself. I get that whenever I'm going to a for sale by owner, if I'm talking to a buyer who doesn't need a buyer's agent representation, hey, I'm going to go to the listing agent. I'm just going to do it myself. I'm going to go to the listing agent. I can call the listing agent. He can show it to me. No, listen, I'm going to do it myself. I can sell my house by myself. No problem at all. Now, the issue here is that first of all, I blame you, the salesman, or I blame myself, the salesman, because if they're going to do it themselves, I haven't done enough to uncover that it's a complicated process that requires a professional. So that was on me. I did not uh, explain to them all the benefits and things that I'm going to do for them and why they shouldn't do it themselves and how they actually can't if they want to make the most amount of money. I mean, you could if you want to get taken advantage of. You could if you want to lose money. You could if you want to bumble through the situation and add a lot of stress to your life. You could do that. Or you could let me handle it, a licensed professional who's been doing this 10 years, who has a team, who does volume transactions, who knows the business and how to avoid legal risk. I didn't do a good enough job explaining me. So extreme ownership there. But if I'm getting this objection, right, I've got to figure out, uh, explain to them the lost time, money, stress that goes along with it. So my prompt is, hey, listen, I like everything you're saying, Ronnie. You're fantastic, but I'm gonna try to do it myself. Well, I could say something like, listen, well, you could, but have you considered that you have a full-time job and you might not be able to conduct the showings, negotiate the offer, read the contract, blah, 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 blah. I mean, you could, but doesn't it scare you that you might not have all the details and experience to close a transaction legally and to your best advantage? I mean, you could, but what do you know about Facebook and Google ads and Instagram ads that drive showings towards an open house? I mean, you could, but you know the contract is 17 pages of legal jargon, and you might not know. And actually, John, you could sell the house yourself, but you may walk into a ton of legal risk. John, you could call the showing agent, but then you'd have to plan your route and plan every house you want to see, uh, navigate all the different disclosures and complicated things that go along with buying a property. Or you could let me do it. I do this a lot, and I can definitely help you and cause less stress for you. John, what about doing it yourself do you think is going to achieve? What about selling your house yourself is really the main reason? I'm going to do it myself, like many other things, has something behind it. Find out what that is. I want to do it myself because I want to save money. I don't want to pay a buyer commission, a listing commission. I just don't want to deal with you. What is that reason? Why is it that the person's going to do, and they're going to say, I'm not sure, I don't know. And as you uncover those reasonings, that's when the I'm going to do it myself objection falls apart because they're only thinking about one reason or a couple reasons why they want to do it themselves, but they haven't thought about the second and third order of effects of doing it yourself. Fine, John, you sell the house, you have a buyer who wants to buy it. What do you do next? Who reviews the contract? Do you have a title company lined up? How about insurance? How about financing? How do you know that you've vetted them they can even buy the house? How do you know you're going to avoid a scam? What are we doing here? Right? They haven't thought about the second and third order of effects of doing it yourself, right? Then having a licensed professional help them with that transaction, guys. So awesome. Super happy with this one. I mean, I think we covered a lot of good topics, a lot of good things. Last class, we talked about framing. We talked about that the prospect respects you, how you're perceived, and using too much data. Today, we talked about how to stop from talking too much, listening in that conversation, dominating the call, how to speak like an expert, and how to use rapport to lower those sales barriers. Guys, we're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep going with some great topics here throughout the week. I hope everyone has a great weekend and catch me on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram for more. All right, guys. Cheers.